I never could quite figure out why a long-gone movie star like King Kong got all this mail. King Kong apparently intimidated Jonathan Winters so much that Jonathan Winters had to insult him and walk off the set. That's 30 feet. And they sort of stood there silently and said, "Yep, that's pretty impressive." The grandmothers were sort of staring. The folks in the Middle Ages were clapping like mad, and the little kids were crying. Now, to me, that's the best paycheck I ever got.
The studio first opened its doors to tourists on the first day it opened in 1915. Carl Laemmle, who founded the studio, thought it'd be really cool to bring tourists in so they could see films being made. Back in those days it was silent, of course, so you had people sitting up on the hill overlooking where they were shooting westerns, and the tourists were able to boo and applaud you know, the baddies and the goodies as they saw them, and then they could see that movie a few months later in the movie theatre, and it just made it a unique experience. You know, you're part of that world. You saw that movie being made.
Universal had always had fan mail from fans all over the world about King Kong. It all went back to the 1933 movie. They never could quite figure out why a long-gone movie star like King Kong got all this mail. What Universal finally decided to do in the early 1980s was to hire a company to look at, could you actually build a big King Kong? Could you actually design a set that would have some kind of an attraction that would make sense? And by about 1982, they came to Applied Entertainment Systems, where I was working at the time, and suggested that we get started on a design of a show and get started on a design of an actual mechanical King Kong. I looked at the drawings that they had from their consultant, but it was pretty heavy and pretty crude. They were going to do stuff with gigantic gears, you know, just not the kind of thing that you would want to do. Actually, a 30-foot tall King Kong gorilla is actually very easy to design. If you stop and think, this is a 1 inch to the foot scale model, so this is 30 inches from top to bottom, and that represents 30 feet. Now, the first thing that you worry about in a figure which might weigh 13,000 pounds is what holds it right side up if the power fails. Well, if you counterweight it so that the body is pivoted at this point and it's much heavier down at the bottom, this means that any time this figure went out of control and you simply let go, it simply returns to its static position in a very safe manner. The next features that we would look at is that we have motions known as forebend, side sway, we have torso motion, we have body turn, and we have shoulder shrug. In 1990, when King Kong was only 4 years old, Universal Studios had a fire on the New York lot where we thought that King Kong was involved in the middle of that fire, and there were quite a few hours went by in which we found out that No, King Kong was totally safe. The building was singed a little bit, but the New York street was virtually destroyed.